potentially could be a connection with some kind of genetic memory here, because my mind is drawn back to the idea of even how you breed, dogs and stuff like this, that you domesticate an animal. Do you think that similar rules apply to a human being?
Yes, they do. And remember, what do you also have when you are breeding? You also have a thing called the purebred. You also have the pedigree, and then you got the mutts, right? In the Freemasonry, we are actually called mugs. You know the word mug? It's actually a Freemasonic term, mugger. And the Freemasons who are initiated to higher degrees know of themselves, as the elites, the ones who are privy to the secrets. And the lower Freemason, and including all the rest of us, are called mugs, by the way. And in any type of breeding, you know that you have the purebreds. So when you see the royals and the queens and the kings, remember I've always said that if you see them in the public eye, they're probably not very high. I mean, they're high to you. You better believe that. But maybe they're not completely high up, when it comes to the total pyramid of power. But you see, they are the purebred ones, with their tails in the air. You know what I mean? And we are the ones who are like sort of, the mutts, the mongrels running around. This is how they look at it. And my work is exclusively, and I really want to emphasize this point, that I would say that Jordan, Maxwell, and I distinguish our work very clearly by saying that our concentration is who's on the top of the pyramid. Because I'm constantly getting emails from people and questions that really are not pertinent to what I do. I'm not there to work out for you, whether you should vote for bloody well Ron Paul or, Charlie Chaplin or whoever, they put up in front of you, you know what I mean? This Muppet show. You stop bothering me with nonsense like this. I don't care. That's just like which talking head, will we have today on the dummy.
And in the end, I guess that's must be the personal choice, if any,
Well, that gives you the idea that you have some personal choice. Heckle or Jekyll, as, the great Colonel Bogreitz has said. He calls us the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. Or
the evil of two lessers. He couldn't have put it more correctly. But that's okay. If you feel that this guy, this, Tweedledum, can give you more, street level freedom than Tweedledee, then go ahead. I'm not against it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, look, on the street level, hey, maybe this guy can get you some justice or whatever. For God's sake, go ahead. Just don't think that he's not on a chain, on a lead. He's just permitted to give you now a little bit more legal freedom. He's just permitting you to now be a little more green, or to have a few more, ecological justices, because they know how to give you a little bit more so that the valve pressure won't build up so much. But don't ever forget that he's tattooed already. Don't forget that behind the lodge, they're all in, together. They're all on the level, as they say in Freemasonry. They're all on the square. It's just that they sometimes do realize that people are going buck mad with this mediocrity and with the open injustices. So as your injustices increase, you know that people are going to become more disgruntled. So let's pacify them. And sometimes we throw out, an individual, I'm not going to name any names, but a person who may appear to be, a good brother, a little brother, instead of a big brother. But you see, again, as I said, my interest is not so much focused there. It's focused really on that 14th level of the pyramid. Who is it that operates from the top of the pyramid? Can we get a profile on them? Can we maybe put together a forensic composite of these people? May not be 100% accurate, but we got to start somewhere. Because all these poxy little small revolutions on the bottom level, how many of those have we had in the last couple of centuries? Hundreds. Has anything really changed?
Not
okay,
really.
A few social things may change. In fact, if you allow me, I'd like to read a small caption from the Irish Origins book.
Please, go ahead.
It's not long. It says, I think this is, I can't remember what chapter it's from, but it says that the power elites and their minions, who apparently believe the world to be their personal playpen, have a great deal to lose should the underclasses, that's the ordinary men and women of the world, learn about the subtle nature of the psychic and social control that operates all around them and which is hidden in plain sight. However, the task of revealers is made considerably more difficult due to the consensus trance and the knee-jerk fear reactions that automatically inhibit a mutilated and conditioned mind. The servants of truth know from experience how few friends are won, if and when they should endeavor to expose the dirty little secrets of religion's upper echelons. Nevertheless, a servant of truth is not permanently daunted by the discomfort caused by the presence and the proximity of truth. The servant of truth is aware that it is easier to cut oneself with a blunt knife rather than with a sharp one, and that the price of ignorance is ultimately far greater than the price paid for knowledge. The servant of truth knows that freedom is never free, and that silence is most definitely consent. He comes to realize that on the great board game of life, if he fatally chooses not to occupy the white squares of knowledge, he will be manipulated by those who will. It points this out that, because I get a lot of emails and communiques, I'm always corresponding, always talking to people who are, first of all, very pessimistic, because they feel very alone and cut off and isolated when they start to share this with their families and so on. And my response is always the same. Forget about that. This message is much bigger than the yokel level. It's a message that's for the global audience that is receptive. Don't beat your head against the wall and then tell me that you have a headache, right? This is inevitable. And try to realize that there's a greater theme going on here. And that is that you're serving truth. You're not really serving people. You're serving truth itself.
And the truth wants to get out. Do you think that?
Yes, the truth always will want to get out. And it's the only reason why it doesn't get out is because of that big weight that we've been talking about. You see, that's imposed upon us. These lies that are being told and the efforts to resist the natural flow of truth. Truth is a naturally flowing thing.
Okay, so that also might be a reason why the lie, so to speak, and the conspiracy around to suppress all this knowledge, that this is something that constantly has to be hammered in, so to speak. This is something that is recurring, while truth, in a way, as you say, it surfaces, and once it's out, it's out. You can't stop it, basically.
Well, you see, you have to, it's like stopping and smell the roses. And we have a chance to do that again. Truth can flower, but if you don't want to taste the fruit, if you don't want to smell the aroma, then okay, so what? You see, so this is where the real human being has to continue his studies. He's got to already understand that he's being lied to and manipulated and deceived. And it's, as you said in the introduction, that deception is, there's people sworn to the job of deceiving us. And they're going to cut truth seekers down either by the sword, as they've done in the past, or by, veils and veils and veils of deception. So it's not an easy task. And when people start by learning a bit of this and then going and starting talking to people and, they get this very negative reaction. Realize that, well, I can't tell them to realize it or not, but that's that point of decision then when you go, okay, well, I'll just crawl back into the kennel with everybody else because this is a bit of a pain. Or you can choose to not bother with anybody else and continue the subject, silently, quietly, in your own garret. People around you, don't need to know what you're doing. What does it matter to them what you're doing? You're educating yourself. You're finding out the mysteries of life. It doesn't necessarily mean that others should know what you're doing. Let them get on with whatever rubbish they're involved in and carry on with your sacred work. First of all, you're doing sacred work when you're studying alternative history. You are in the occult.
And it's a personal journey.
And many times it's a spiritual journey, so there really is no room for two people on the road. Get where you're going first. Awaken yourself first, and then turn around and, create a blog or a website or a radio show or a movie or a documentary or write a script, or write a book or whatever, or do a couple of public talks to a wider audience, you see. There's all sorts of avenues for you. We're in a MySpace generation now. We're in a Google and YouTube generation. So the avenue is there for you. But for goodness sake, first find out what's going on. Do your own research. Don't hesitate. And don't get put off just because, people who are never going to get the truth start, arguing with you or whatever. You will have resistance even in official subject matter. What do you expect when you're doing this kind of work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly, because that's one idea that I think many people spend perhaps too much time on, the fact that they are bickering and fighting against themselves almost more than focusing on continuing their own research or their own work and just letting their research lead them towards the path or avenues that they're going, basically. And
that's right. And I understand why. This is a very interesting subject. It's highly inspiring. When you find out a few anecdotes, say if you're reading Jim Marrs or Jordan Maxwell, or Anthony Hilder or any of these books on the Knights Templar, how would you not want to run down and grab your friend, and go, my God, look what I've discovered. I'm not arguing that this thing is not tremendously inspiring. It is the most inspiring thing. But we have to realize that this is a spiritual journey, and you, as some sort of, Luke Skywalker type character, is just not going to be, sitting down at dinner at the table of the uncles and aunt, in the local village, and you're going to turn them all on by this. It's not going to happen. It doesn't mean that you don't have brothers and sisters of light and of truth in the world. You do, but you have to not. Let's put it this way. Let's put it really in like a sort of an Ayn Rand context. Have no expectations. Mm-hmm. Do what you do for yourself, not for anyone else. And when you do the thing utterly for yourself, when you are convinced that this is your passion and this is what you're doing, the road will open up to the next step. But believe me, it is a very fascinating subject, and I think that because people think it's fascinating, and it's obvious that you would want to share this with other people, but they're just not there, they're just not listening, and that's why we have to understand that there is a lot of resistance on this road. But as the resistance increases, what you also have to understand is like that metaphor we gave of the man climbing the mountain. The resistance increases as you rise, but your vista, your perspective, your understanding of what is all around you increases. And just, don't get hindered by the fact that lots of other people couldn't care less about this. Note it, study it, find out why people have this much resistance to truth. Make that part of your study.
So one of the things that we're going to talk a little bit about here today is, of course, ancient geometry and also the salt lines. Where do you want to begin?
Well, I got a great deal of faith that the new scientific discoveries, as I said, there's been new revelations about the Cretans and Minoans, even Armenia has an incredibly ancient society, which I believe was very much connected to the Druids. Mm-hmm. As slowly the lid starts coming off the royal families and the royalty of the world and these people who've ruled us for centuries, I have an enormous belief, and again, my work focuses, as I said, on the top of the pyramid, who are the real elites, and what kind of knowledge have they been using to manipulate us. Let's get a profile on who these guys are. As we move down through the years, more and more revelations are going to come. Some of these revelations will be even from insiders, people who have a sea change within their own consciousness, who technically have been insiders. They may have been part of this dynastic matrix of control.
And we even have a few of those today.
We do. And we have more that we don't know about, but they work through the movies. Who do you think made National Treasure, or even the Da Vinci Code, etc. Who's putting out these films and why? The Matrix and all of these kinds of things. So we have questions about that. Is someone blowing the whistle from within with some of this kind of thing? Who are these John Rottenberries, and Rod Serlings? I mean, are they just storytellers, or is there something deeper going on? That's an open question. But as time goes by, we're going to understand more and more of what has been hidden from us. And one of the most amazing things that the absolute elites have made use of is sacred geometry. And also geomancy, which is sacred geometry as applied to the earth itself. Now remember we were talking, you opened with the introduction saying that a lack of understanding as to how important history is contributes to their control directly. It's a simple equation. Exactly. The less understanding you have about your own history equals your level of subservience and control. How do you prove that? How do you prove that these ancient royal families and dynasties literally did work with great power? I mean, prove it is what the audience will say. Well, last time we talked about the existence of the land bridges, which radically changed what we know about Britain and the world. And as time is going by, this has been discovered by the top geologists. These are people who don't know or care about Atlantis or don't care about the material we'd be talking about, but they certainly have proven that the lands of Britain and Ireland and France and Scandinavia, were connected at one time. And maybe as the further you go back, the more they're connected by these lost land bridges and so on.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that unimaginable catastrophes arose to destroy it. Tying into this, I think, is this fascinating discovery of specifically two groups, the Cistercian monks and their military branch called the Knights Templar. They positioned their houses, and this happened wherever they lived, not just their monasteries, but their palaces, their cities, their houses, their institutes, their religious centers, are all positioned specifically on these unseen energy vortexes and lines that sometimes are called the salt lines, but are more historically